Hello, my loves. You beautiful beings. Welcome to a wisdom walk with Randy. This is my first wisdom walk, and I think we're going to make it a routine to do wisdom walks more regularly. So just taking a deep breath, tapping in, settling into the body, into this moment, and just allowing whatever wants to come through to be received in this moment. So the first thing that feels on the forefront is taking sacred moments, sacred pauses in between the busy of our lives, of our daily routine, of our schedule. We have so much going on. We have so much pulling us in all different directions at all times. Even when we are in rest mode, attempting to watch a movie, there are advertisements, or, perhaps you like YouTube like I do, and that is your way to access rest. Yet there is always something pulling at us. There's always some kind of advertising or loud, chaotic noise that is subtly humming in the background, even if it's just in your own mind, even if it's just the hum of responsibility, the hum of work, or tomorrow's day of work, or tomorrow's to-do list, or today's to-do list. There's always something to be done. There's always more that needs to be handled, figured out, unraveled. This thing we call a cell phone is constantly keeping us imprisoned by our to-dos, because there's always more to do, something to look up, someone to answer, someone to respond to, an email to check, a calendar to organize. There's always something. And it's so important for us to have boundaries around these things, whether it's the phone, whether it's tomorrow's work tasks or to-dos, or your children, or your family, or your friends, or your colleagues, or your emails, whatever it is, it's always going to be there. I shouldn't say always, because people are not always there, but our problems, our tasks, our to-dos are probably always going to be there. And so what I'm getting at is, or I should better say, what is coming through is that it's so incredibly important to acknowledge that this is an ongoing list that feels never ending. And perhaps if we come into the awareness that it's ever ongoing, and there is no end or beginning, and there is just the now, then we can allow ourselves to take a sacred pause from these to-dos, from these things that are pulling at us in every direction. As I'm saying that, I'm being swarmed by these little bugs. They don't seem threatening, yet I seem to feel threatened by their presence around my face. I might have just inhaled one. And so how can we practice these boundaries? Where can we integrate these subtle pauses into our life to allow sacred moments of rest in between these things that pull on us throughout every day and every moment of our waking life. Where can we create subtle moments of refresh and restoration? If I think about my personal schedule in relation to what we're speaking about, I have 4 or 5 jobs normally every day. And that's not sustainable for everyone. My jobs are not 8-hour days. They are more of an hour job here, a 2-hour job there, a 4-hour job there, a client here, a client there. And so, but they're all different areas of focus, different areas of, and so there's this, and then I have my lovely boy Blue, who requires a little jaunt. I have my passionate YouTube channel where I love so much. Hi. I love so much to share my voice. I love so much to share the wisdom that I have access to. And because I don't get paid, I have to make means elsewhere, right? So I have to meet my needs in all different kind of ways, and we have all these needs to be met. And how do we meet all these needs when there are so many needs that are never ending to be met? We create boundaries. We create boundaries within focus. So, as an example, from 6 a.m. till 9 a.m., my focus is childcare. That is how I start my morning. Generally, also with a 30-minute meditation. Sorry, I'm swatting these bugs around, asking them to go away. And so I have these little moments, there's so many things in my daily to-dos and my daily descriptions. And so it's so important for me to make sure that I have these moments where I come into the forest and get swarmed by bugs. Stop it, bugs. And really ensure that the pauses I take, that the time I get to myself is as restorative and rejuvenating as possible, so that I can meet my next client or my next session or my next work environment with 100% of me. And so I want to tap back into the flow of what wants to come through in that, and what else can be offered to us in this space of receiving some very sacred wisdom, but also real world wisdom. It doesn't have to be ancestral and ethereal. It can be logical. It can be mental. But to just receive. Taking a deep breath, allowing myself a sacred pause. There's a different way that is being accessed within the collective of how we've navigated life. And this relates to what we are speaking about. And so we can be working really hard. We could be nailing out our to-do lists. We could be also, if you feel like there's no time in the day to take these sacred pauses, if it feels so far out or like there's just too much to be done, the invitation that is being received now, that feels very relevant for my life as well, is that there this element of feeling into what it is we feel restricted by. Where are we feeling resistance in our life? If it is resistance with time, and we feel like there's not enough time in the day, even though we all have the same amount, yet some people manage better than others. I don't believe it's an external game, as most of you know who are familiar with my channel, and if not, welcome. But the game we play here, and I like to call it a game because it's playful and fun that way, is that it's an internal game. And anything you are feeling or sensing or experiencing in the external world is really just a reflection of how you're feeling internally, right? The only world we're really experiencing is between your left and your right ear. That is the only reality that there is for you. And so when we lean into our resistance, when we lean into what we feel restricted by, and we look at it with curiosity and openness and receptiveness, we can also explore the deeper layers within us that are holding resistance to time, that are holding resistance to whatever it is that you feel resistant to. And in that, you discover that there might be a wounding, there might be something much deeper than you feeling like you're running out of time, but perhaps you had a mother or a father or a caretaker that would go, hurry, 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 your entire childhood. Hurry up, hurry up, hurry up, we're going to be late. Hurry up, we're going to be late. And somewhere in your subconscious, you have this hurry up, we're going to be late. Even if you're on the way to the beach, even if you're on your way to take your dog for a walk, because there's always somewhere else to be. And especially in this society that we live in where everything is pulling on us, especially if you live in Western society or the Americas or, many others that resonate with the same flow, there's this element of pull. There's this element of time. We have to be somewhere. We have to go. We have to, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. And so it could really be something subconscious where 7-year-old you is listening to mom in the car. And now mom has turned into your God because that is the voice in your head that kind of feels like God. And up until you're a certain age, your parents do feel like God because they meet your survival needs. And so there's these subconscious layers that we are so unaware of that are coming through. And I'm learning this at the same time it's coming out of my mouth. So bear with me because I'm receiving this in the moments that you are as well. So if we lean into what we feel resistance towards, such as time and restriction or money, and we, just for a subtle moment, put our hand on our heart and acknowledge the restriction we feel, acknowledge the resistance, acknowledge the subtle pain that comes from these feelings, right? And maybe for some, they wouldn't call it pain, but discomfort or whatever word works for you, however you want to describe that, whatever feels good for you. But how I would describe it is discomfort, limitation, restriction. It makes me feel short of breath. It makes me feel like I'm always anticipating or waiting, or makes me feel uncertain and potentially panicked, or a subtle panic. It makes me feel stressed. It makes me feel all kinds of things that are that make me uneasy inside myself. And so just leaning into these feelings of unease or restriction or limitation and just acknowledging them. I always like to put my hand on my heart. Sometimes people like to put their hand on their belly. But wherever this feeling shows up for you in your body, we're being invited now to put a hand there and just acknowledge that feeling without doing anything about it, without trying to make it go away or resisting it. And just feeling in feeling comes healing. That is what I'm hearing right now. In feeling comes healing. Sounds overly simplistic, but it's true. Because the more we can lean into that discomfort, the greater freedom we give to it. And eventually it passes. While also allowing ourselves to invite in potential solutions that we need not search and seek and figure out, but receive and allow. Which is so beautiful, because to bring us full circle, that is how we opened this space, was to receive. Receive what we need, receive what space we don't naturally know how to give ourselves, or give our emotions, or give these parts of ourselves that feel offset is the word, or out of line, or imbalanced. And we think it's just out of our control. We cannot control it. We cannot control the amount of time we have in the day, yet some people have many, many things to do, but manage it much, much better than others. And so that is, again, coming back to the reality that we experience is between the left ear and the right ear. It's in your brain. And the mind is so powerful. The more we become the master of the mind, your mind is not your master. And don't let it be your master. Because I bet it's an untrained monkey. Like many of us have these untrained monkeys in our brain, or the monkey mind, I like to call it, that, before I went and drove myself into self-mastery and emotional mastery and all of these areas of learning and growing that I felt were absolutely necessary to cultivate, to live a life of ease and peace, to live harmoniously within my own being. It had to get to a point where the monkey mind was at its most extreme and creating incredible suffering within my body and inside my mental and my emotional state. We need not let the mental or the mind control, yet we must practice the mastery of it. And how does one do that? We lean in, we feel in, we listen. We listen to its communication, and then through the listening of the communication, we can then take steps forward and toward what is needed. But we weren't taught how to listen. We don't even know how to listen as a society or individuals. We have a hard time listening to one another. We have a hard time listening to ourselves. And so that is where my intention comes from on a very deep level. Is when we learn how to listen, we can develop a level of compassion that we never had. And this isn't compassion as in like goo goo gaga, make me feel better, be sensitive. And no, I mean compassion in a sense of softening into life, because it's become very clear that hardening doesn't work. Resisting doesn't work. You know, we see everybody push and force their way through. Just walk it off. You let me know if walking it off ever helped, because I don't think walking it off is where we're at these days. I think it's a softening, a holding space, allowing, accepting, feeling that this is where we are. This is what we have. This is what life is presenting. And the only thing that we can do about it is respond to it differently. And that doesn't mean by trying to control and manipulate. It means by changing the lens in which you see it. Which again sounds overly simplistic, but do not be fooled. These very simple yet beautiful and almost magical ways of learning and navigating life become an element to mastering life in a way that doesn't require us to work harder or push through or force more, or once I have that, then only if once I have the house and the money and the car and the man or the woman or the kids or the whatever that is for you. There's no waiting. We are here. The magic is within you. And when I say magic, I don't mean bippity boppity boo, believe it if you want. But I mean bippity boppity boo. The magic is within you. The magic is within you. And it's not magic, actually. It's real life. It is real life. And real life is between this year and this year. Left and the right. And once you learn how to navigate that world in between your ears, you learn how to navigate the outside world in the same way you navigate the inside world. And you can do it playfully. You can do it dancing. You can do it singing. You can do it in whatever way you feel good doing it. I hope this finds who it needs to. And I hope this met you where you needed to be met today. I love you all so very much. And I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It helps me out. It helps channel out. And it also helps out our fellow Soul family that needs to receive these messages. Receive them and deliver the messages of wisdom that help us evolve and transform in ways that we might not have otherwise. Till next time. Bye for now.